What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Take 3 Podcast. We're here Tuesday night, coming off of Monday Night Football. Major news, at least going forward for the Cardinals' future, was revealed today after MRIs. Kyler Murray has a torn ACL. I mean, that really impacts their future. I think it goes into even the next couple years, right? If you look at Kyler Murray, a guy who uses his legs so much, and he's also shorter. How does he transition as a pocket passer? At least, is he going to be willing to run and take those risks, or is he just going to want to play video games and Call of Duty? Got a lot of time to play games, right? He has at least the next year to do that. He's good at that, we see. So, I mean, the Cardinals get impacted. The Dolphins drop 2 straight. They stayed out west. We sat there last week. I think I said they flew back to Miami. They did not. They stayed out west. That shit didn't matter. Tua looked like crap again. The Dolphins dropped 2 straight. They go from first in the AFC East down to the 6th seed. That's pretty big for them. Sam Darnold and Chuba Hubbard, I should say, lead the Panthers to upset the Seahawks. They lose 2 straight games. The Eagles keep it rolling. They look like the best team in football. Chiefs survive the Broncos scare after Russell Wilson gets a concussion. I mean, what do you make of week 14 in the league? The Jets backdoor cover as well. Screw them guys. They got the defense to stifle Buffalo, dude. That game was like absolute garbage out the rip. I think 7-0 at half. It was like the Buffalo Bills didn't score till the end of the first half. But they got the defense, man. Robert Saleh said we want to see the Bills again. So that's always fun. But yeah, what do you make of week 14 and what happened this weekend?
Yeah, week 14 was a really fun weekend. Spread picks aside, because I did not do well. The Eagles kept it rolling, like you said, and then we learned a lot about all these teams. Good for Denver to score some touchdowns finally. I know that's kind of a joke, haha, but I do kind of feel for Russ that the offense looked not dead for once. But then he got a concussion, so that really sucks for him. Tampa Bay and Tom look absolutely atrocious. That offense, it looks terrible. Like Sam Darnold, the Panthers look much better than they do right now. All of a sudden, Seattle drops 2 in a row. You said that they're out of the wild card right now. They're in the hunt. And then speaking of another team in the hunt, Detroit is all of a sudden 6-8. They beat Minnesota. I'm low key rooting for Detroit to get a wild card spot. I think that would be fun. The Jets backdoor cover, just like how the Giants did on Thanksgiving. That was a good one for me. And then Cincinnati kept it rolling, beat Cleveland finally. I don't know why they could never beat the Browns, even though they're a better team. They beat Cleveland. Cincinnati looks good. They got steam heading into the AFC playoffs. So it's the picture's getting a little more clear. We can figure out who the best of the best is. And honestly, it was a pretty fun NFL weekend.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Yeah, the spreads are rough. I think 5 picks apiece. We'll get into that at the end. But Lions -2.5. Lock that in. Did not get tricked by the Vikings. We remember that back with the Cowboys game. Get suckered into them. I can't do it with the Vikings, man. I mean, what are the Vikings when you think all of a sudden, right? They're back. They're good, and then they just kind of remind you like Kirk Cousins. So that guy they're letting up catches the offensive linemen now in games. That was hilarious. Listening to Dan Campbell on Pat McAfee's podcast talk about looking up and seeing, holy shit, we're throwing a ball to Penei Sewell. So that's pretty amazing. Let's dive into first topic on the docket. Obviously, last night, the big news, Kyler Murray tears his ACL 3 plays in. That was pretty evident. The second it happened, he's laying on the turf, calling the trainers, and I was like, yep, he's done, right? Everybody knew what it was. What do you make for the Cardinals going forward? I mean, this obviously their season was done last night. Their season was done before last night. But then you go into next year, I mean, it's looking like a year he's probably not ready week 1. And then it's he's a mobile quarterback, uses the legs. That's a part of the game. How willing is he going to be to run? What's his legs going to look like? Because he doesn't really translate to a guy that's going to sit in the pocket and really do damage, right? His game is getting out, making things happen with those legs. And coming off a torn ACL, man, it looks bad. You think Cliff Kingsbury holds on to the job? Do you think he's safe? Where did the Cardinals go? They're kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, Arizona already didn't have a lot of room for error based off the new Kyler contract, and they've been nothing short of disappointing this year. So this is a really big injury for Arizona, because not only is their season done this year, obviously, but feels because this is a later in the season torn ACL, which definitely hurts even more, and it just feels like next year is kind of compromised. And Arizona doesn't have a ton of cap space and room to maneuver. They would have to make some trades probably. And it's all let's see if Kyler returns to form, right? Kyler's young, an elite athlete. Obviously he'll recover and get healthy, but will he recover to the point where he returns to form? You already kind of alluded to it. If Kyler doesn't have his legs, how effectively really be? I think Kyler can be an effective pocket passer, but that's with the presence of the being able to run and like having the threat down the field with the legs. Like I think if it's just pocket passing, he's in for a really rough time. Obviously, he's a smaller guy too, so like that doesn't help. And like I think where it gets really interesting for Arizona is what does this mean for Cliff Kingsbury? Is this like his little out as an excuse to be like, well, we lost Kyler this year, like this year doesn't really count? Because I think Cliff Kingsbury has done a horrendous job coaching this year. Honestly, he's been nothing short of a disappointment. I was questioning if he should be on the hot seat earlier in the year, even though he signed a new contract. And now I feel like this could be a good thing for Cliff's like job security. It could be an excuse that kind of keeps him around a little bit longer. But I mean, I overall, which I think is a bad thing for Arizona. Arizona already looked bad this year. They already looked on multiple Sundays not ready to play, not ready to go. We saw Kyler yell at Cliff at one point in the season, calm the fuck down, screaming at him. We saw a little dichotomy in that relationship. And like now that Kyler's out, like is the organization going to use it as like a crutch or an excuse for Cliff Kingsbury and not having the team ready to go enough for the year? So I think that's like the big question mark moving forward. Obviously, Kyler's health, but like, does this mean Cliff Kingsbury can keep his job? Because like I would have moved on from Cliff this year because assuming Kyler like didn't get hurt, I still think Arizona would have stumbled like the rest of the way. I wonder if this is a crutch now that like they'll hang on to what they have for a little bit longer because I don't know. I've been very disappointed in Cliff Kingsbury and like obviously the question marks about Kyler, but to me, at this point in time, just for this present time right now, the bigger question is like, what does this mean for Cliff Kingsbury? Because like I could totally see Arizona using this as an excuse to kind of justify what happened this year and hang on to him when I don't think that's the best move moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee they're going to hold on to him because it's easier just to hold on to him and write it off and write this year off and write probably, depending on how long Kyler Murray misses next year, you could write next year off and not have to pay the guy a chunk of money. Cliff Kingsbury would sit there right now and say, hey, Cardinals, if you guys want to fire me, I'll take the lump sum of money, right? I just read up a new deal. I'll take the buyout. I have no issue. But are the Cardinals going to do that? No, they just watched their guy that they paid $200+ million to. He's done at least into the beginning of next year, even before that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with you. Cliff Kingsbury's been a disappointment. That offense is a disappointment. Kyler Murray's even been pretty disappointing
Yeah.
prior to the injury, right? When you give him that amount of money, you expect him to rise to the occasion. I mean, 2,300 yards, that's 20th in the league. 51.2 QBR, that's 21st in the league. 14 touchdown passes, 7 picks. I mean, you got when you have Geno Smith wheeling and dealing out there in this league, and you got a guy that's getting 200 million, an elite athlete uses everything, and to put up those numbers has been a disappointment. It's been a big disappointing year. I definitely think the Cardinals just sit on Cliff Kingsbury just because they don't want to give him a fat chump of change just to go away when you're going to lose ball games anyway, right? It's kind of a wash until Kyler comes back, no matter what they try to do. I mean, they'll have draft picks at least, right? They can add to the roster depending on what they want to do at the top of the board. But I don't think they do anything with Cliff just because the Kyler injury. If he stayed healthy, I could very easily see them moving on from him in the offseason just because they say, okay, let's reset this thing. We think we have the pieces. We got the quarterback. Obviously, we have weapons. Let's go get a head coach. But now there's really no point, right? You're looking at maybe mid-season, maybe 6-7 weeks into next year when you'll see Kyler Murray, depending on how quickly he rehabs. Luckily, we have modern medicine. So, I mean, it could speed it up, but it seems like the Achilles is the quick one where guys heal up quick. The ACL seems still to be a solid a year. I mean, 14 months, especially for a guy like Murray who's smaller, uses the legs a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's just this season. This is like the icing on the cake for the Cardinals season, right? I mean, I don't root for guys to get hurt, but it's kind of just like the tip of the iceberg in Arizona to just slap in the face. It's been a bad year all around, and this kind of just it slams the book on it for sure.
Yeah, and the timing for the organization is just absolutely brutal, considering what you already said. It could cost them next year, like the entire next season as well. And it's like they really thought they had a window heading into this year because of like what they did last year, even though the playoff performance was really bad. And like it's been nothing short of a disappointment, like start to finish.
Yeah, all around. It kind of trended bad when it took so long to get the whole Kyler Murray thing done, and then all that.
Mm-hmm.
They just let it linger. They made a series of bad moves. We'll see where they go. We'll see what they look like going into the offseason, and especially Kyler Murray with the rehab coming into next year, because they expect to be down again next year too. let's move on quickly. The Eagles, the NFC's, and the NFL's best team, I would say right now. I mean, you got to agree, right? Not to even be a homer. Like the betting books don't have it. The betting books still, for some reason, have the Bills. I would still take the Chiefs. Like I don't care what these betting books say with the Bills. I think the Chiefs could go into Buffalo and win. But I think the Eagles. I think it's time. Like the concerns, right? It was the run game. They'll get gashed by the run. Being able to shut down Derrick Henry last week and then just stifling the Giants completely en route to a 48-22. The team can do it all, man. They're running, they can throw. The defense is now showing up. I mean, the only thing is just stay healthy down the stretch, right? I would have to say the Eagles are the NFL's best team. You'll have the nerds on Twitter and the dweebs and the guys say the schedule, the schedule. I mean, teams don't make schedules, right? They just play the games.
Well, and it's gotten to a point, right? We're sitting at 12-1 to where like schedule. It's like, okay, but like this team has so much confidence, so much swagger from like winning so much that like they get like I put them up against anybody right now. Like to me, they are the cream of the crop. When it comes to the AFC, I personally would take Buffalo and Kansas City and Cincinnati over Buffalo right now. I think it's pretty close. Not I don't want to sleep on Cincinnati. They've really shown what they can do. And then the NFC, like to me, Philadelphia is clearly the best team. Like, and I think the most important part of that is not just the winning, it's how they're winning. Like, if you go through all their games, they've won in every form and fashion. Clutch defensive stop at the end of the game, clutch touchdown at the end of the game to drive down in the Indianapolis game. They've dominated on the ground, Green Bay. They dominated through the air, the New York Giants. They've done both versions multiple times. Like, this team has shown they can stop the run, they can slow down the pass, they can win through the air, they can win on the ground. It's like that is why I think the Eagles have been the best team. Just not the fact that they're winning, the fact that how they're winning. And they've shown that they can win in multiple ways, play different styles. And like when you can show you can go into someone's house or you can play whatever style like is going to be able to attack the other team the best, like that's incredibly lethal. And like I think it'd be foolish not to say that the Eagles are the favorite for the NFC at least right now. If you want to talk full Super Bowl, maybe we can debate a little bit. But like, yeah, the Eagles are right there. Like I could not be more excited about this team.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, what they did against the Giants was it was pretty remarkable. A team that we watched roll into Dallas on Thanksgiving and kind of give them a hard time, and to be able to go on the road and just absolutely embarrass them in front of their own fans, right? It's a thing, especially division games are tough, and to be able to go on the road against divisional opponents and do that, yeah, I mean, I'd say that they have to be at least the NFL's best team. Just the versatility and being able to win in all forms and fashions, and the team really they're just there's unity in the team, man. I love Jalen Hurts, clear MV. I mean, he's kind of, at least for now, the MVP favorite, I'd say. After this week, Mahomes kind of had a struggle week with 3 picks, but yeah, he's pretty remarkable. I mean, I saw a clip on the sidelines where I think it was Quez Watkins and AJ Brown going crazy and like jumping up and down. And then you just got Jalen Hurts, just eyes on the prize, just sitting there, cool, calm, collected. Like he's just ready for next week, right? I just love the vibe around this team. They're very even keeled, even though they're 12-1, right?
It's just one last thing about Jalen is just his leadership skills. I've said it many times; they're just so impressive. I think that when they were sitting at 7-0, 6-0, whatever the damn record was, and they asked him, he said, "We haven't done anything yet. We haven't completed anything. I've been 6-0, 7-0 before, and we lost a national championship." It's like I love hearing that as a fan. Like he's got this team locked in; they love playing for him. It's like so much positivity. Nick Sirianni's doing a great year. Eagles got a chance to get an MVP and Coach of the Year. We'll see what happens, but like Coach of the Year definitely feels like it's Nick Sirianni for sure. And then Jalen Hurts, you know, he's right up there with Mahomes and Burrow and whoever else you want to throw in for the MVP conversation. But it's Mahomes and Hurts at the top. So, like, very, very exciting.
For sure. Special year indeed. Let's keep it moving. The Panthers go on the road into Seattle, a team that we were so up on a couple weeks ago, right? They're doing such good things. They stumble, lose 2 straight. It's a tough one. Lose. I think even preseason when I had this game, I saw they'll play the Panthers at home. I was like, mark this in for one of their 2 wins. And then, yeah, I mean, that obviously didn't happen. 30-24. The Panthers used a little bit of the 2 running backs, with Chuba Hubbard and Foreman, and then it was just Sam Darnold didn't turn the ball over. I think he only had a buck 50, but he had a touchdown, right? He just kept it clean. They played good, and they upset Geno Smith and the Seahawks. As you mentioned, now the Seahawks slide out of the playoff picture. A team that we kind of said we're in. Are they on the ropes? I mean, I think we kind of see the Seahawks maybe a little bit doing what the Giants are doing and kind of coming back to life a little bit, and they're on the verge of missing the playoffs.
Yeah, Seattle's kind of come down to like a more the middle of the road team, which kind of feels more reasonable. They're playing just so many rookies defensively. The defense, they have moments to build on, but they're still not that good. still shout out Geno Smith. Love everything he's done this year. Don't want to take anything away from him because he's been sensational, especially with like no expectations. He's come in here and like led them to a pretty damn good season. But like, let's see what they're made of this last month. Like, let's see if Seattle can get it done again to the wild card. It's just so funny because that tie between the Giants and the Commanders just loom large, right? Right now, they are the last two wild card teams, the Dallas being the first one. And like that tie might be enough for them to hold on and squeeze in there. It's going to get interesting. Detroit's now right behind them as well, but like, yeah, Seattle's kind of come down to earth a little bit. They're the middle of the pack, a little more than what I expected. I didn't think Seattle was going to be good, and the fact that they've been good this year has been impressive. But it feels like they were playing a little above their standard. Now they're playing a little more to like what we expect, which is still. I want to give them more credit because they're far from a bad football team. They're still a good football team, but like I feel like they're playing above their ability a little bit the first half of the year where they're getting more down to earth. But like it's going to be interesting last month. We're going to see what they're made out of. And funny enough for the Panthers, all of a sudden they are 5-8, one game behind Tampa Bay for the division. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they have a real chance. They have a legitimate life. And also considering they beat Tampa Bay once already and they have another matchup with them. So like, it's funny. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the NFC South. I still think Tampa Bay makes it, but with how atrocious they looked last Sunday, Carolina's all of a sudden winning. It'd be pretty funny if Carolina somehow won this division.
It's the race to 8, man. It's the race to 8.
Yep.
I would say for sure in the NFC South. What a what a shit show of a division with Tom Brady. Yeah, it's bad football going on in the NFC South. But yeah, I mean, simply the Seahawks, they miss Kenneth Walker for sure, and yeah, they're just they don't have a good enough roster for Geno Smith to throw 2 interceptions. Right, he's kind of been clean football for most of the year, but I mean, he still threw his 3 touchdowns, but they give the Panthers 2 extra possessions on 2 interceptions. That roster and supporting cast around, they're just too young and not good enough to overcome giving teams extra possessions. So I mean, the Seahawks, yeah, we'll see how they rebound two tough losses. They got to keep it moving. It's hilarious to see the Panthers now in the playoff picture with that shitty division. Falcons still in there. It's yeah. I mean, the NFC South, everybody's alive. I guess if you can get the 8 wins, you're still alive on the year.
And the last thing on Seattle, like if they make the playoffs through this last month, it'd be pretty impressive as well. They'll definitely earn it because they got Niners, Chiefs, Jets, and then the last game being the Rams. And all of a sudden, Baker Mayfield breathed a little bit of life into that Rams team on Thursday night. So that might not be an easy win like we thought it would be. So like Seattle's got a pretty tough stretch the last month. So like if they do well in this stretch, they'll definitely earn it. They feel toast for sure, but it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, been a good run. And meanwhile, dude, if the Saints can go on a hot streak, they can sneak in and steal. If they can win 4 in a row, they can steal the division in the NFC South. But yeah, the Seahawks, they're in trouble. They are for sure. They're in big trouble, as you mentioned, with that schedule. We'll see how they go. Geno Smith, regardless if they make the playoffs or not, like Geno Smith and that squad, they've been a good story. Because as I said, I was sitting up here a couple months ago, laughing, trying to pick 2 wins for the Seattle Seahawks. They're sitting at 7, way above everybody else's expectation. And they still had the Broncos pick, right? So it's like, dude, they had it. So they didn't even have to be bad because they have Denver's pick and Denver's bad. So it's like they could have had 2 top 10s, right? If they were horrible, but having that Denver pick is some security. They have a good foundation going in Seattle, which is something I really didn't think. Just hopefully for them, they don't kind of, I mean, give Geno an extension, but I think they should be wise about the number. Hopefully Geno's like down to earth. He seems like a down to earth guy, but that extension is going to be kind of like huge because you don't want to go freak out and give him a huge deal because I don't think that's the move. But we'll see where they go. Somewhere in 3 years, I'd say 2 years, 3 year maybe deal. That seems like the perfect range, but I wouldn't go crazy. And I don't think Seattle will. They've always been pretty smart front office wise. Moving off of Russ looks genius. Nobody else.
Yeah, it does.
We kind of bashed them and like laughed at them, but it looked like a genius move now. So I think they'll be smart with it. It's been a good year for the Seahawks. Moving forward, another team that's also dropped 2 straight, the Dolphins, man, they went out west. They were looking good. And then they go out west. They get their ass beat against the 49ers. Looked bad. Tua played bad. And then we're like, okay, here's a primetime game. They stay out west. They stayed in LA. They got the practice in. They get the reps. Didn't have to fly cross country again. And then Tua drops another dud. And Herbert rise to the occasion, man. The one throw to Keenan Allen from Herbert was just that was a ridiculous. That's a big time throw, dude. That's a tight window. That's like that's a social media quarterback making that throw, as some would say out there. But I mean, yeah, what do you make of the Dolphins, man? They were first in the AFC East. They kind of looked like everything was rolling. We were like, the Dolphins, they could be legit. They definitely missed the 2 tackles. But yeah, Tua, he's another guy, right? He's not good enough to to be inaccurate and have bad weeks, right? He kind of has to be on the money for that team. The run game's not been there, and they dropped 2 straight. They're now sitting in the 6th slot in the AFC, which is a dangerous territory. Obviously, I feel like they have like the weapons with the speed outside. They could beat anybody. Like I feel like they could string an upset against a team in the playoffs. But it's definitely not where they want. McDaniel kind of seemed concerned with the 2 losses after the game against the Chargers. They were 3.5 point favorites. What do you make of the Dolphins? Yeah, it's been bad. And then the Chargers find a way, right? We said desperation team. They find a way to win in prime time at home.
Yeah, to the Chargers, like they're kind of rounding into form a little bit. They still have a lot of injuries, especially defensively. But all of a sudden, you get big body Mike Williams back. Keenan Allen's been on the field 2 weeks in a row. Justin Herbert's still slinging the rock, and we're seeing the Chargers have a little bit of life. Sitting at 7-6, I really hope the Chargers make the playoffs. I want to see Justin Herbert in the playoffs, and he's just a big time player, man. And I'm hoping the Chargers can build on it when they can make a little bit of a run and sneak in. With that being said, we see the quarterback difference between Tua and Justin Herbert. There's a huge difference. There was some media talk this year about Tua being right there simply because I feel it was scheme and coaching. We've seen Tua play a few years now. He's never exactly looked phenomenal. Obviously, the first month of this season and a few games after that, Tua's looked really, really good. But I give a lot of credit to Mike McDaniels and those just all the speedsters in this offense, especially Tyreek Hill, who's probably the best receiver in the game, considering just the impact he's had on his 2 quarterbacks. I feel like that's pretty easy to say, honestly. So, like, I'm concerned about Tua. Obviously, the tackles matter, but like, how much credit do you really give Tua for the big games? Obviously, he played well. He was out there. He was slinging the rock. I'm not trying to discredit him, but like to me, Tua is like a very middle of the road quarterback. Like if the like this past Sunday against the Chargers when they weren't playing well and Justin Herbert slinging the rock really well is a perfect opportunity for Tua to be like, no, I'm in this conversation. I'm one of these guys. I'm one of these young studs. But like he's looked bad back-to-back weeks. All of a sudden we're questioning Miami. We don't know how good the offense really is, and it's like it's not because of all the other positions. Obviously you miss the tackles, but like it's about that quarterback position. It's because Tua back-to-back bad weeks, like, and we've seen a lot of balls where like they kind of get underthrown this year as well, and it's like it's just a shame because like Tua is playing really well, but like to me it's more of that coaching and scheme. And like if I'm the Dolphins, do I really like go all in with Tua moving forward? Obviously, they're going to keep him and everything, but it just makes me kind of weary, right? Like every time he's had an opportunity to really jump into that next conversation, it's not quite there. And obviously, he can get better, and the Dolphins continue to get better. But I am nervous about this team. I don't think. I think they're a wild card team at best and might win a playoff game, but they are definitely a step down from contenders. They look like contenders for the first part of the season because that offense was really rolling. But like to me at this point, I just have a lot of question marks around Tua still, just like we had heading into this year. And it's hard to decipher because we see how much coaching really matters. Like look at Brian Dable and what he's done with the New York Giants. And we would still all probably agree that Daniel Jones is not really the answer. So like now it's to me, it's like, do we really feel Tua as the answer? And I think that's the biggest question mark for Miami. And what sucks is like that's an incredibly hard question to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Miami's gonna have to figure that out and not us. Yeah, I mean, they definitely missed the tackles, but yeah, I mean, Tua feels like the guy that if the game's going perfect and everything's going regular, right, everything's on schedule, he's fine. But then he feels like if the game gets off the schedule, if one bump in the road happens in the game, it kind of feels like everything goes awry, and then you see this 10 for 28 game where he could really rise up and duel with Justin Herbert and say, I'm in that conversation, as you mentioned, with the Herberts, the Burrows, the Allens, the Mahomes. But yeah, he just falls short. He leaves a lot to be desired in games where you want him to rise to the occasion. I mean, it's kind of the same questions that everybody had with Jalen Hurts rolling into this year. We kind of see it on the flip side where he has rise to the occasion in games where he needs to make plays and things happen. And yeah, I mean, I think the Dolphins really are waiting for that to happen with Tua, a game where everything's not tailor made. Mike McDaniel's done a hell of a job through 13 games, right, to scheme things up and make them look very good when everything's rolling and everything's on schedule, as I mentioned. But the second it gets off, Tua can concerns me. Yeah, contract going into the future, contract extension with him, I'd be terrified. I don't know if
Mhm.
I'd be able to do it if I was in a GM or sitting in the front office. I'd be very hard pressed. They still have a little bit of work to do on that O line. I mean, it's not complete even if they had the tackles there. The O line's always been an issue. They got to find a way to get a run game. I keep mentioning that. It's weird that a Mike McDaniel offense that's like it comes straight off the Shanahan tree. His leading rusher was 11 carries for 37 yards. It's just it's concerning that they've had like one good Jeff Wilson week, and then outside of that, like the run game really hasn't been anything for them. They've really just relied on Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to go crazy out there. But yeah, I mean, Tua scares me. He can't. I would say as of right now, he can't duel with those guys. Right? If it gets into a duel with the big dogs, the top four, the Herbert, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. If he has to get into a duel, one of those or go out and win a game against one of those, and it's on his shoulder, I don't think he can do it.
The run game point is interesting too, because you're right. They've been so inconsistent. They haven't found a run game. But like on top of all that, the Chargers have been atrocious against the run. This was also an opportunity to maybe get that right. And once again, I know you're missing the tackles, but it's got to be better than what it was. It was basically non-existent. There was not a lot of positive running plays at all.
Exactly. They should have just flew to Miami and slept in their own beds. They stayed in a hotel for a week for no reason to get embarrassed on Sunday Night Football, if we're being honest. They could have flown back to Miami, came back and did that exact same thing. They leave more to be desired. But I'm with you. I want to see the Chargers get in because I love Justin Herbert. Eckler's there, obviously, out of the backfield. He's dangerous in both the run game and the pass game. And Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, man, you can't forget about Joshua Palmer. Like, they have guys out there that if they're fully healthy, like, they're a scary team to play. You wouldn't want to play them in the wild card. They seem to do stupid shit against the Chiefs. If they can avoid the Chiefs, they could be in. But I just want to see Justin Herbert. He's special, dude. He's legit, man. As I said, to throw to Keenan Allen, Keenan Allen literally pointed at him and was like, "You're that dude, right?" Like that's a big time throw into a tight window. Literally when your receiver's face guarded by the corner, and he puts it in there. He's special. I like the Chargers' weapons, but yeah, they definitely the health. It seems they always get beat up health wise. And yeah, Brandon Staley, desperation mode. He's probably still getting fired. Let's be honest. They would probably have to make like an AFC title run, I would say, for him to have his job safe. Just because the Sean Payton rumors are like hardcore right now. That like the only place he'd want to go is LA. And I don't think even if McVay retired that he would go to the Rams. So like the Chargers, it's right there in front of you if Brandon Staley can't somehow make a run with this group. Go for it. Are you gonna have?
Yeah. Sean Payton as well. Like if he goes to that Chargers team, I think everyone instantly just adds a bunch of confidence to the Chargers. Cause like to me, the Chargers, the last few years, as great as they've been, outside of the injuries that have been atrocious, like it's the constant big time moments that they're like kind of underperforming. And then we saw Drew Brees and Sean Payton perform so well in so many big time moments. Like I have a feeling if Sean Payton's coaching up that team, Justin Herbert's not throwing pick sixes when it matters most against the Chiefs all the time, especially the one that beginning of the year. If you remember that, Gerald Everett was exhausted and they insisted on running hurry up. And then they targeted him on that pick six play. He was clearly exhausted, half running the route. It was just, to me, a lack of self-awareness. And like, I don't see Sean Payton doing things like that.
Nope, dude. Yeah, I mean, if you're Justin Herbert, you got to be smiling. If Sean Payton comes to terms and he's your next head coach, like that's an offensive guy that you wanna, yeah, that you'd want on your side. As you said, that team, the potential could really get unlocked, especially on offense with that group. Like you met all those Saints teams. To put him with a guy like Justin Herbert, whose arm is probably better than Drew Brees. His arm is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Plus the legs and all those guys, like they could be dangerous. But we'll see what Brandon Staley does, man. I mean, somehow we could resurrect the Chargers, right? And Brandon Staley goes on a Super Bowl run out of nowhere, saves his job, and then shit. But Chargers are exciting, regardless of where they sit. 7-6. The talent's there. They just got to put it together on Sundays and Mondays. Let's move on. Here's the spread picks for week 14. We got shit on right out of the gate. It was looking good. The Raiders are up 13-3. I said, okay, this is a W. And then what the hell? They shit the bed, man. That's all I gotta say. So the Raiders, huge disappointment on my end. It's just a lot of red, man. It's a lot of red. Only 5 W's. Titans get embarrassed. Yeah, the Chiefs getting us sweaty with right? The concussed Russell Wilson and then Brett Ripien, they score points, right? And I'm not cutting Russ any slack. I don't care how many points they scored. He's looked like shit all year. Just because he gets a concussion, I'm not cutting him slack. And I can't believe Hackett's still employed. Like, I don't care what happens. I cannot believe that guy hasn't got fired like weeks ago, but he still has a job. He's still getting paychecks. Yeah, what do you make of this week on the spreads? Rough. We finished the same, just alternating. You got the Jets backdoor cover, but overall it didn't really matter. We both had a shit week.
Yeah, horrendous week. Cowboys minus 16. I'd never felt good about that, but like too many points. Man, but it took a lot for them to beat Houston. I was really hoping Houston would come up with the upset. That was pretty fun. But to the Raiders minus 6, I mean, logically that made all the sense in the world. But like, I just want to shout out Baker Mayfield, give him credit. That was so fun to watch, that 98-yard drive. I never really liked Baker Mayfield. I always thought he was overrated, not great. That was a hell of a performance. He wasn't like perfect or like awesome, but like the fact that you are with the club for 2 days and then you go out there and you play practically the entire game. Wolford got 3 plays at the start of the game and that was it. Baker played the entire game after that, and you throw a game-winning touchdown like that for a 1-point win, like that, like might be a catalyst to resurrect his career after the bad year and a half he's had, two seasons now. It just was really, really impressive and fun to watch. Like, shout out Baker. Like, not a Baker guy, but that was impressive. It's one thing for running backs like Christian McCaffrey to get traded to San Francisco, play Sunday, and a few certain sets, and he knows a few plays here or there, or like plugging in a D lineman or other guys that we've seen. We've never really seen that at the quarterback position, to like operate an entire offense, know what's going on, do it. Now, granted, it was like not, they're pretty limited offensively because it was the same package and just a few different plays, but he still went out there and ran that offense, and that game-winning drive was pretty fun to watch. So like, pretty impressive performance from Baker.
Yeah, for sure. You don't see guys get off the plane with two days notice and throw the ball 35 times. It's impressive, and it's impressive out of Sean McVay, right, to have that confidence 2 days into the Baker Mayfield, who could be his guy for the future. We don't know what Matt Stafford's career
Yeah.
looks like with the spine thing. It seems pretty serious to where he might not play. He's already has his ring and his money, right? So it's like, is it worth risking anything else for him? So I mean, could that entice Sean McVay to stick around and that group of guys? And then, yeah, I mean, if you're a Raiders fan, you had one good thing, I guess, happen out of that. Devontae Adams absolutely sunned Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
tired of the Jalen Ramsey best corner in football. I was off of it last year. Like, he's good, right? He's great, but he's not the best corner in football. Simple as that. I watch him get sunned week after week, and then he gets like one, as I said, he gets like one bloop interception off of Marcus Mariota, and then he's like running around saying, "I'm back, I'm that dude." It is what it is. Raiders shit the bed, but yeah, good story for Baker Mayfield on 3 days' notice to throw the ball 35 times and come back, right? Lead a comeback like that in your first game. Got himself a game ball. Yeah, the Cowboys thing as well. I mean, I would have loved them just to lose. Once I knew, like, once I
Yeah.
saw it was a sweat game, they were sweating it out with the Texans. I was like, just please lose. Like, the spread pick's already gone. Just lose the game. I would love nothing more than, like, yeah, to be able to shit talk these Cowboys fans after a Texans loss. Maybe the Jags can do it because this coming up in week 15. That'd be hilarious leading into the Christmas Eve showdown with us. But yeah, pretty mediocre week spread wise. Just got to be better. I think I fell below 500 now. I would imagine easily because I was teetering right on the brink last week. So we're definitely going down. Any things to kind of add before we wrap this thing up and move on to week 15?
Last comment about week 14. Speaking of the Jags, that was a pretty impressive performance. They started real slow, got their butt kicked in the first quarter, and then like basically kicked the shit out of the Titans after that. They dominated after that. So yeah, let's see if they can build on it. And bad week 14 from spread wise, but actual NFL good weekend, good weekend of football, and excited to head into week 15.
Yeah, dude. A lot of stupid shit happened. Like I said, I mean, you got to take the Chiefs. Ain't nobody taking the Broncos plus 9.5 off that Broncos train. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Doug Peterson, right? Beat up on the leftovers of the Eagles. We warmed them up, we lined them up, and then yeah, Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, and the Jags. If I would have knew Trevor Lawrence was playing, maybe I would have flipped it. I don't know, dude. Guys get turned around knee injuries, and I see people sending prayers on Twitter, and then the dude's trotting out there the next week like it's nothing. He's practicing on Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm like, okay, I feel like a moron. But yeah, shout out to the Jags. That's a big W for them. But yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this episode. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Drop any feedback in the comments section or add us on Twitter at Take3Sports. As always, Spotify link will be in the description. And we'll be back Thursday to jump into week 15.